Hello, my name is Scott Robinson, and I'm here to speak to you about student athletes and whether or not they should be paid for their play. The daily routine of a student athlete is very much like that of a job. From the time they wake up until the time they go to sleep, it is either sport or school. Many times, this rigorous schedule will burn out athletes, causing them to perform poorly in their sport or school. Throughout the year, depending on the season, athletes are forced to miss classes in order to participate in their sports, such as for the College Football National Championship or for March Madness. These athletes' performance also affects other aspects of the school. They can be the difference maker in whether the school is popular nationwide or ignored. While true that yes, these athletes are not professional athletes, but rather student athletes, many of whom are on scholarship to their respective schools, we cannot ignore the fact that these students are used in order to create revenues for the school. Student athletes have a daily routine much like a full time job. In college, I know from personal experience that it can be difficult to balance our time. Imagine the regular schedule of a student, but add on an extra 50 hours to that schedule. The average student athlete works a full time job while also attending school. A daily schedule for a college football player includes waking up at 5 a.m., 6 a.m. lift, team meetings until class at 9. After class, they have a film review until about 2:30, practices from 3 to 6, and after practice, they have tutoring and homework, eat dinner, and go to bed around midnight. Personally, I can barely get through a week with just my classes. I could never understand the dexterity it takes to go through a schedule such as that. On a daily basis, players must balance their schoolwork and their sport. Mixing games depending on the seasons, and one or more days can even be more filled with their sport over academics. Sometimes people have papers or projects and exams that require more than just a few hours to prepare for. Back in 2014, football players from Northwestern attempted to create a union in order to have better representation between coaches, the NCAA, and players. This was a first, and according to CNN, while Northwestern does graduate 97% of their student athletes, they still contribute over 1,700 hours a year to their sport. This is not a sustainable lifestyle, and many times players get burnout. This is unfair, especially when many student athletes who would benefit from a form of income are unable to receive any money without being suspended or worse. While entertaining for us as college sports fans, we often underestimate the effects of tournaments and games on a student athlete's academics. Athletes must miss class in order to participate in things like March Madness, the College Football National Championship, and others. The biggest thing for football players specifically is that when bowl season comes around, they essentially lose their family time around the holidays. March Madness takes players away from the school at a critical time in many school semesters as midterm exams are taken. On top of that, depending on the quality of the team, sometimes they can be away for weeks or until their time in the tournament is over. Like I said before, this is on top of how much time the student athletes spend on the sport to begin with. According to a New York Times article, athletes spend anywhere between 32 and 50 hours a week on sports, and that amount of time can affect a person's academics. Now for the biggest issue there is with not paying student athletes. The schools benefit financially and in the public eye from their students and their students' athletic prowess. Top schools in the country, many of which are public, some private, boast hundreds of millions in revenues from athletics alone. Many times, this is not circulated back into the school. Instead, it goes towards new buildings, new contracts for coaches, or on the more frivolous end, things like water parks on campus. According to ABC News, Texas Tech built an $8.4 million water park that their director of recreational sports, Pee Wee Robertson, claims is a great recruiting tool. University of Alabama is best known as a perennial powerhouse football program, and is the face of college football. Alabama, because of its pedigree, brings in the most revenue in all of college football at $177 million, which is actually even higher than the year before by $3 million. The way the money is spent, however, is on the campus, and much is funneled back into the football program itself. Nick Saban, the head coach of the team, makes $8.3 million a year in his contract. This is among the highest in college sports, but not uncommon. Many coaches are paid in the millions a year in order to coach teams that will create revenues for their respective schools. Sports bring in revenue through tickets, merchandise sales, and, of course, food and beverage sales at their multi-million-dollar stadiums and arenas. This, along with television deals, allows schools to essentially profit tenfold off athletics in order to make money and be seen on a national scale. For example, I had never heard of URI until I saw E.C. Matthews' highlights from his freshman year, and a television ad. Schools utilize their players' likeness in order to bring in more students, thus creating a cycle of new talented athletes who are being exploited for their university's gain. For the reasons I have stated above, I believe that student athletes should be paid. They work the equivalent to a full-time job, they miss class in order to participate in their sports, and their sports benefit the school financially and in the public eye. In the end, without paying student athletes, we will begin to see a decline in the sports themselves at the next level. We already see in college basketball where players like R.J. Hampton are foregoing their opportunity to play at college and electing to play professionally overseas to make themselves more eligible for professional sports in the United States quickly. This phenomenon will force the NCAA to change their minds in order to keep the best talent and product available to fans of all sports. Thank you.